The last question is, with what you went through, mashallah, it's great and it's convincing. But this is, it's convincing because coming from you, you have a lot of experience. Because, but in our case, we cannot articulate these. How would we go about convincing somebody, like for a first time, somebody came to me, he's an atheist, how would I deal with the situation? Like he would bring these, all these shubahats or these doubts, and I have to attack him.
Look, you raise a very important question. The third question is the best question. So, hypothetically, you're saying, Hamza, this is convincing because you've got experience. So, in order for you to be convincing, what do you have to do? You have to accumulate experience. That's it. So, don't think that you've attended this for 2 days, which is really should be a week-long course, around the week. Don't think now you're an expert. You're not. This is the beginning. What you need to do, the onus on you is to articulate, practice, move forward, and you know what? Don't be disheartened. You're going to fail around 1,000 times. Good. Because your ikhlas is tested, and it's just going to get you stronger. I failed 1,000,000 times, all online for you to see, right? Right? I had haters, people call me extremists, people do this, people do that, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Right? The point is, those will be lessons that on the day of judgment, you're going to wish those lessons to be multiplied. You're going to wish those experiences to be multiplied. So the answer lies in your own question. Hamza, your experience, that's why it's convincing. What do? Gain experiences. And don't fall for the trap. Some shayateen in our community, sometimes they say, oh, you did a mistake, how can you do the dawah, blah, blah, blah. Go to sleep. Who made you an angel? Yeah? Who made you an angel? Sahaba did mistake. Imagine the mistakes we're going to do. Subhanallah. Right? We're living in a time of rahmah. Everyone's always judging each other. He's like this, he's like that, he's like this. Just get over yourself. Someone came up to the Salaf and asked him, why don't you speak about other people? He said, because I'm not satisfied with me. People had a profound insight about their own position. So don't worry about it. Embrace the mistakes. Obviously, don't seek the mistakes, yeah? But be encouraged, move forward, have sincerity. And when you hit the floor, if you have a class, you're going to bounce back in some way. Don't think now you're ready to take over, the whole of Canada. Bring on the atheists, yeah? It doesn't work that way. And it won't work that way. You've got a few concepts, you need to apply them and practice them. And my advice is stick with your ulama. You have ulama here. Sheikh Al-Izz. You have Sheikh Saab over here, Sheikh Saab over there. You have people in your community. Connect with them. Don't expect them to come to you. We do this a lot with the ulama. We expect so much from them. Yeah? No, you need to come to them. You need to seek them. Yeah? You deserve it. In the Tibetan tradition, for example, if you want to study in the Tibetan school as a Buddhist monk, they make you kneel and wait outside a monk's house in the winter for, I think, days. Right? And then they deserve to come in. And they give them some oats and water to eat. Right? So, and they won't even expect you to do that anyway, because they have rahmah. Yeah, so connect with them, apply the concepts of standing on the shoulders of giants. Just keep them doing your stuff. But don't fall for the trap of shaitan. That, I don't have the articulation, I'm not good enough. Do it. Mistakes will come to refine you and to develop you and to make you grow. And you know what? And my book, for example, is an accumulation of the lessons I've learned from my own mistakes, right? So you have people who've done the mistakes for you anyway, some of them. Yeah? So, Habibi, just do that. Don't be, rash, and don't, do shura, do consultation, get advice. But you're going to end up doing lots of mistakes. You might end up humiliating yourself. You may end up, messing up. But that's life. That is life. And have a thick skin when you get engaged in this stuff. If they degrade Allah and His Messenger, who are you? Who are you? If Allah's name is degraded online and from people, the Prophet ﷺ is degraded and accused and abused and all that stuff. We should be more concerned about that, not ourselves. Yeah? So the summary, just follow a path of experiences, have ikhlas, make sure you stick to what you know. You're going to end up doing many mistakes for sure. You may not even be successful in the first year. So what? Remember, you don't do this for the success. You do this because it's a glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it was about success, then Nuh alayhi salam would have given up a long time ago. If it was about the shahadas and the success and the praise, Nuh alayhi salam wouldn't even be mentioned in the Quran now. So it's not about that. The success is from Allah. Just do what you go do, learn from your mistakes, have ikhlas, connect with ulama, and inshallah you see it. If not in this life, bro, you see it in the hereafter. Right? I love this. Yes, there's a question over there.
Yesterday you mentioned about two ayat in the Quran that mentions about Allah is the creator. Yesterday you talked about that. Can you please mention which those two ayat?
Sorry?
Yesterday you mentioned that there are two
No, there were two ayat that provide an argument for the creator.
Yeah.
Not that they mention it. There's many ayat that mention the creator. So the ayat was chapter 52, verses 35 to 36.
Chapter 52.
Yeah, verses 35 to 36. It's in your notes. It's called the Quranic argument for God's existence. There's a question over there. Oh, sorry, sir.
No, go ahead.
No, you have the mic, so you can.
Okay. So,
two mics now.
MashaAllah.
first of all, Brother Hamza, Jazakumullah khairan for coming to Canada and also Windsor, mashallah. Jazakumullah khairan for all the effort you made, and the Ummah and Muslims were appreciated. The hundreds and thousands of hours you put behind this subject and topic. So we're really thankful that the Ummah has people like you, alhamdulillah. So I want to get your perspective on this, because we're talking about God and Allah, that the gender, the pronoun, him, he, his. Like when I deliver lectures or whatever, I just try to use the word Allah, or with non-Muslims, God and Allah interchangeably, because of the Me Too or the feminist movement and things like that. I just try to stay away from, I mean, the Quran and the Hadith have the masculine male pronoun used. But I mean, I don't know if you ever gave it a thought or...
No, I agree. So when I do non-Muslim lectures, and to be honest, your internal narrative should be the same as your external narrative. If it's different, it's going to expose that difference eventually. So you're right. So what I usually do is, I would mention God, and I say, the name for God in Islam is Allah. Allah has no plural and no gender. It's a genderless name, yeah? Which is like, wow, that's very interesting. That's the first point. And the second point, when you say things like him, when we say him, it doesn't refer to a gender, right? Because that's saying the thing or it. I know that's a bad way of putting it, but I say to them, it's a genderless kind of description. But I would be careful in just reacting to movements as well, though. Generally speaking, the narrative is that you should never react to movements. If that's the case, then you end up changing Islam or changing narratives. That what I would say is, allow these experiences to refine your articulation of Islam in a way that will deliver Islam more intelligently and more compassionately. So I agree. But don't just react to movements. Because sometimes when something happens, we think we just have to react all of a sudden. No, sometimes we have to challenge back. Right? There are some aspects of the feminist movement that are an absolute irrational disgrace. It's like a joke. It's like incoherent philosophically. But do we empathize with the drive of some manifestations of feminism? Absolutely. Yeah? It's because maybe they don't have a voice within their own community. So there are a lot of things, there are nuances, there are different manifestations of political feminism. I like Marilyn Friedman when she talks about individualism. She's a feminist philosopher, right? And it is not one monolith, here's a feminist, and here's the Me Too movement, blah, 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 blah. The point I'm trying to say is, we should not just react. We should understand what we're assessing, and instead of reacting, sometimes we have to just provide a challenge back, because that may have to be the case. Like sometimes, we live in a neoliberal environment. Some people think, we need to liberalize Islam now. Well, do we? Islam has its own core understanding of what it means to be a human being. Liberalism is a disputatious set of doctrines. At the foundation is the idea of atomism or individualism, which sees the human being as an abstract self, divorced from human attachments and obligations. Do we agree with that premise? No. There's nothing wrong with that. We live in a pluralistic society with many ideas, and we should engage with those ideas. For example, we have, and I don't want to be crude in my assessment, but we have like a postmodern movement going on, right? I remember I was in Canada a few months, earlier this year or something, or last year, and someone said, I believe things to be true by virtue of me just believing them, which is almost slightly postmodern, yeah? I was like, really? You just think your beliefs are true because you believe them by virtue of your beliefs? And I said to them, well, your metaphysic, therefore, is things are true because I believe them. I said, fine. Therefore, if I were to believe, here's a thought experiment. If I were to believe that I am the master of the universe, and anything I do is correct by virtue that I do it, then if I were to, for example, harm you right now, then it would be a good thing because anything I do is good by virtue of me just doing it. And I believe that about myself. Is that a true belief? Do you know what she said to me? Yeah, it's a true belief. I was like, are you serious? And she was very hesitant. I said, the hesitation there is because you know how inconsistent your own beliefs are. You can't say something is true just by virtue of you believing it. Right? We do believe in truths. There are some absolutes, some truths that are non-negotiable. And it's all about how do you articulate it. Are you going to be intolerant? No. Are you going to be violent? Of course not. You're going to be compassionate and intelligent about the whole thing. So I think there is also a fear. We need to take leadership in how we respond to existing narratives. I am not a fan of creating an us and them. Yeah, Allah says, Surah Al-Imran, verse 113, people are not the same. You can't otherize. There are groups of people, but you can't say they're all the same. This is the same with ideas. So when someone thinks feminism, you think, it's all kufr. Yeah? Frankly, no, it's not. If you actually were bothered to read a book and study on the issue, they have some truths in there. Does that mean now you become a feminist? No. But you could now relate to those truths, and that's how you discourse with people, right? Come to a common word. Likewise with other ideologies. We become very ideologically hard-hearted, isn't it, yeah? We think it's very binary. And having a binary mindset is a sign of a defeatist mind, and a sign of a shallow mind as well. Look at the way the Prophet ﷺ would engage with other people. He would even call people who were not of his tradition, not Islamic, he would call them virtuous. This is in the Seerah tradition. This was a virtuous man. How did Khalid bin Walid become Muslim? Didn't the Prophet ﷺ write him a letter? Right? Such a wise person, why isn't he a Muslim? He elevated him, right? He was a mushrik fighting the Muslims, but he called him wise, right? So we have nuances to these things, right? So that's why when I see online very binary discourse, I don't get involved and I ignore it. I'm like, because it's shallow. They both haven't been bothered to understand their positions properly. So anyway, I know I've used your question as a lamb to the slaughter to bring something else there, but I think the point remains, we need to be careful how we react. Yeah. But you're right, I would say God, and I would say Allah, gentleness, no plural.
So I have a couple more questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know it could be a whole lecture itself, but maybe if you have some points in mind, quick points. What do you think is the cause of atheism nowadays, and also what can Muslims do to mitigate the rise of atheism?
That's a good question. So I don't know what the cause of atheism is, but I have some intuitive thoughts. One of them is we've created a civilization, especially in the West, that makes us have the illusion of self-sufficiency. And there have been studies that show that if you think you're self-sufficient and independent, that becomes a barrier to the need for guidance and the need for divine connection, yeah? Being connected with the divine. I don't think it's got anything to do with philosophy or thinking or rationality. Not at all. It's more of a psychological phenomenon, yeah? I think also that maybe the increase of the success of science has created an illusion of we don't need God anymore, and that things can be eventually explained by reducing them to physical processes and causal connections. That may have, encouraged people to think in a certain way. And you know what? the door swings both ways. I think it's because we have a problem too. I mean, have we as religious communities articulated ourselves correctly? You know, have we revived our intellectual sciences and tradition so we convey Islam with compassion and reason? You know, I do believe that we have a role to play as well. You know, I know, you know, in my more immature days, I had huge rants about this, but I'll try and articulate it in the best way, in the best possible manner. How many books do we have on atheism in the English language from the Muslim community? Right, name me 3. Divine Reality, what else? What else? Thank you. And Dialogue with the Atheist is about 20 years old. Yeah? And now it just doesn't do the job, frankly. We've moved on since then. So we don't have a comprehensive book. That's why I wrote the book, to fulfill the gap. I'm not saying it's the best book in the world. It's the only thing that we have so far, which is a shame. Yeah?